Hi, and welcome to the Hellfire Club. Today's video was a blind target set by my project manager Dimi in February 2025 to the Hellfire Club remote viewers. All remote viewers were at this target blind and alone, and the focus of this project was an object captured on camera during the November 2024 drone incursions over New Jersey, USA. Take a look at the raw remote viewing data shared with each other for the very first time over Zoom and let us know what you think in the comments below. Namaste.
So let's wait a little for Dennis. So let's see. So maybe you have what do you think about the target? What do you think? It was well written, it was well put or not? I please give me critics if you have, because it's always something around.
Dimi, absolutely no. It is
Okay, no.
perfect. What
I
do
really
you
want to
mean?
learn more, so I just wanted to be sure of it. So
You should be teaching now.
okay. So I will start with a not so short presentation, but I will browse through it. It's for not because we don't have a lot of time, because I want each of you to give your participation on this. And so let me start now. We still work for Dennis. Wait for Dennis. He says he's gonna be late, maybe a little bit. So okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna start. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go into the slideshow and start from the beginning. So of course, our target 7840-3771 was our late target on the New Jersey man-made, which I choose a little bit of a video that Julie Chevalier, a person who lived in New Jersey, in the county nearby,
Dimi,
and
it's just
this
showing
was,
your folder at the moment. It's not showing a presentation.
oh no, sorry. Let me try again. Okay, let me stop sharing. I'll go again. Okay, what's happening? I've told you I have a lot of issues with
Me too. I got new computers.
I don't
Crazy.
know what's happened.
That looks better.
Can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. So our target of our last target from Hellfire Remote Viewing Club was 7840-3771, which was a man-made peak by a person who lived in the county nearby Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey. And of course, our viewers were Carl, Darby, Daz, Dennis, and Susan. The special, I don't know why it doesn't work. It should be working. I don't know. This was a short video of this presentation. With this, on my last check, it worked when I did that, but I don't know what happened now. Let me see. So this was a short 8-second video of this man-made. Well, let me try it from the beginning again. So it doesn't work. We shall see it. The focus of the target was the viewers will move to describe details and drew only the man-made, which is the focus of this footage, which is that footage, but I didn't show. I don't know what happened. Our subtask were to describe your subtask, or to describe where this object originated before appearing into the video, detail its structure, proportion, and technological future, detail the entity responsible for its creation, describe, explain, and detail the purpose of mission of the object during the event recorded, and the viewer will disregard any influence from my current or old news, myths, stories, and my personal biases. Okay. So the man-made that we picked, or you pick there, and I picked to be the focus of the target, was not the usual drones that you are used to see or to use in our daily life, or by others, by militaries or whatever. And I choose to show some things here in order to be clear about that. So let's start a little story about that, because the hysteria started around the mid to late November 2024, with an escalation with FAA restriction in November and December, with the growing public concern, with federal and state investigation, with continuing legislation and public demands. And it's still ongoing. The Pentagon is still mystified. The government is still mystified on this today. But I will just add some things about this, because it seems, and I've seen a new footage, a new short cut from radio, from news. It says that in Nebraska in 2019 were a swarming of these things, a dozen of a time, and they're over the sensitive nuclear facility there in Nebraska. And it was in front of the Navy destroyer, and they couldn't film it. They couldn't jam it. Nothing at all works for that. And also in 2023, it was a brazen display of those things in Langley for 17 nights in a row. And they have nothing to do, just look for them. And that was all. So it's really interesting, because it's not just from 2023 started this event. It's starting much earlier. And it's been said that in 1965, it was certain things like that happening also above the sensitive nuclear facility in US. So let's keep going. And I just I just chose a pic from an event like this there. So the early report says that it was in November 13 to 18, 2024, by residents in Morris and Somerset counties, by the personnel working in military bases, and drones were seen over, of course, in Ramstein airbase. And this is the area where it was the most concentrated swarming of those man-mades. And this is exactly the county where they are seen mostly by everyone, by people living there, by personnel, military, and everything. And then it was an escalation, because they FAA start to flight bans over Trump's Bedminster Golf, expense bans over sensitive New Jersey sites. It started to appear over Ramstein in Germany, and of course a little bit late in United Kingdom, around the same times, in November, late November. It was a growing public concern. The New Jersey residents were reporting swarms of lights. It says no threat. There are no drones, usual drones by hobbyists or military drones. There are sightings near Naval Station, and also Aero briefs the Congress. FBI reports drones over agents' home, and drones spread in more counties like this. I also want to add that there were like 4 generals, which were in charge at some point of NORAD, And they said they still are mystified and they see that they cannot be jammed, all these things. So lately, FBI admits limited answer, unusual aerial activity recorded of FBA Barksdale, another base there. Senator requests briefings. New Jersey issues drone crash safety guidelines, and so on and so on. And over airspace restricted at Wright-Patterson base. And the incidents continuing even today. Former astronaut report earlier UAP encounter. FAA extends drone base over critical sites in New Jersey and New York. Pentagon open to mitigation if threats are arising. And of course, I don't know if you know, there are also signaling electromagnetic interference reported near there. So this was kind of a short passing through the history of all this. And what are the key themes to take? It was a really widespread activity in over US, in New Jersey, New York, over UK, Germany, LA, in many near other critical sites with high value targets, airports, reservoir, nuclear plants, and the government never had a real response to that. And they said it could be China, but it not could be China because they're too brazen because the first rule of surveillance is not to be so visible, is to be stealth in all this. It was, and it still is, a rising public alarm because official urge calm, but citizens and lawmakers demand transparency and strong defense. And of course, the mystery still persists. And these are some pics from citizens living there of what could be in the right corner down could be exactly an aeroplane, but the other one, they don't know what it is. So I picked just some from your work because I want to say that I was dazzled by all your results because you all came with some technological, absolutely amazing things about this. Also, most of you pick the water and the sea and the ocean, which I think is absolutely amazing. Some take the proportion, some thought about who's behind and what's happened, why is this happening, and why with this force and powerful, intense operation. So I've picked just some from the work of you. Up there are the drawings of the Dennis with the back and front. This is the back of the purported man-made drone, whatever it is. Down is Daz's drawings with some explanation, describing the metallic thing, the curvy thing, also the round thing, curved skill-like object, and an idea of shape-shifting started. The idea of orb also I've got it from Susan, and the vibes. I will have to ask more about this drawing, although you described it some in the session, Susan. And here is absolutely amazing from Darby, this piece of of an image of an ET with four endings, which really looks like a drone if you look closely, and coming from with the parallel with movements. It's really interesting. And let's look that. This is Coral's drawing, and you can see the absolutely amazing resemblance of Dennis and Coral type of sketching here. And the purpose of it, I was really much interested in the purpose of it. And I thought it was something special, but most of you came with the research area, with searching, with looking for, with surveillance type of idea behind. this is Susan's drawings with an eye on the sky, which I thought it was really, really symbolic for this, but more than symbolic. And this is mapping from coral of the location, looking for something. Reminds me of an ultrasound scan, she says. So like searching, looking for, trying to see what's happening there. And the idea of a metallic thing going in the waves from Dennis, which I found it absolutely amazing. So that is my short presentation. I don't think I can take all of your work and put it here because it was really, really interesting. And I was amazed every time you you're sending me a session. So thank you for that. Oh, sorry, it was another one from Daz about the organic alive, the idea of an object in the sky, look for observant here, and I'm gonna let him here taking the charge because the idea that he got here is absolutely amazing also about what is happening here and how. So let's see, thank you. I will stop sharing. So what do you think, guys?
Interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone shows.
I'm gonna share my presentation in the chat here. So everybody is gonna have, I'm sorry for that. I've tried on a Zoom earlier, so it's work. I don't know what happened here. Of
It's
course.
okay. Who would you like to go first to go through their stuff to me?
Let me see. In my screen here, Darby is the first. If you're okay with this, Darby, go for it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I don't have any fancy graphics.
It's okay if you talk about because it was really interesting.
Yeah. So I organized what I got based upon your tasking, Demi. So your primary tasking was that we would move to describe, detail, and draw only the man-made, which is the focus of that video that you were showing there. So
Yes.
session one, I got vehicle, object, metallic card, man-made life outside, natural environment, trickster. And excuse me, you said describe, one of the subtasks was describe where the object originated before appearing in the video. And the piece of data that I thought that was related to that subtasking was planet, deep, waves, ocean traveling. Another of your subtasks was detail its structure, propulsion, and technological features. Felt like I got a lot more information about that. In session two, I sense humming lights like consciousness as if it's aware. There is flight, speed, and weaponization. I sense light movement and motion. I see an image of what looks like a clock. I get the word dilation, something like music, tones, or waves. There's a life form and I can see its eyes. I sense something like cargo. There's a presence of a being of higher vibration. There's a humming sensation, which is stimulating and energizing. The target is something that flies and moves fast. It seems to have a fluid motion around it, almost like it exists within a fluid medium. I get the concept of a fuel port, a place where something is inserted. I get the concept of crystals, light, and a silica-like chip. There is heat fire, not a normal fire, more like plasma or something exotic. It feels like part of a technology, something manufactured. There's a surface that is textured and energy exudes from it, not exactly from it. It feels more like it's materializing. Probing further, I see a shape, a yellow ring of light, sort of a crown-like shape above and a triangle below this. I hear the word satellite. Is it powered by something on the ground? Maybe. I hear another word, fissure. I see a wave that is moving like it's a bridge of particles of light. There's a sensation of flight and heat. Why fissure? Something releases a wave upon rupture, like something coiled and then released. There's a lot of heat, and I see a shimmering, like metal shimmering in the heat of the sun, creating a scintillating effect. One of the pieces of data, Dimi, I got in my first session was hypnosis, time, and parallel. And I think this plays into the function of the object as well. I got a concept of a flute, and there's an object associated with this, wider on one end and narrower on the other. The word stricture, weapon, cloud, particle, heat. I probe hypnosis. It's like a rubber band, something to do with forces and or boundaries, like the boundaries between what you can traverse and what is untraversable. There is something like a flywheel. It's something to do with what powers the object. You can travel around time to different points, and this is the mechanism. It would break the mind. It's beyond human ways of perceiving. It requires some type of spiritual illumination. You have to function outside of time to really understand it. The word hypnosis and time are blended somehow. It powers something, like the wind blows a sail in a ship. Time is the wind. It powers the movement. Probing the word parallel, I get a sense of humming. This feels like a machine. A catalyst is put into the machine, and that starts something. There are multiple hidden machines. They are not dumb machines. They are like animals or like civil servants. They're officially authorized to do something, but they operate below normal consciousness or normal awareness, outside of time. They travel on waves outside of time. One of your subtaskings was describe in detail the entity responsible for the creation. The only thing I got was this image of sort of like a gray looking dude, but he wasn't quite like a gray. He had like some narrow features and like a ridge around its eyes, which that drawing doesn't really give it justice. But I got cold, wet, creature, hypnosis, golden light, time, parallel, metallic, hard, man-made. Describe, explain in detail the purpose or mission of the object during the event recorded. This was another one of your subtasks, and I felt like I got some data on this too. Time, wave, history, something that's circular, something that's cyclical in nature. I feel like I'm looking at a dome, and this is kind of, this stuff gets really far out here. I feel like I'm looking at a dome that's holding something. Concepts of shuttle, carry, mission, people, sound, waves. At this point in the session, I started thinking about the drones that have been in the news lately. I'm getting the sense of a lot of activity in the dome, a lot of life. It feels almost like a city or a place of habitation. It feels like a colony of sorts next to an ocean of stars. The flying man-made is a shuttle that is carrying and transporting something. I probe the contents of the shuttle and I get an energetic vibration that feels really good, golden, with what I imagine is an angelic-like energy or feeling. It feels spiritual. There's a heat, a glow, and I feel a sense of love, like this is an important mission done in love. Something is being moved with some urgency for protection, like a safe haven. What's being moved? Creatures. I get the concept of a hairy Bigfoot, plants, something that's fragile. This is something like a ship that transports creatures on a river of time that goes into a current. It's like we're children. We can't take care of ourselves, so we have to be taken care of. There's a feeling of being locked up, not out of meanness, but because we need help. This help is like a reformulation, fixing something, getting us back into the proper current where we belong. And then there's another piece of data from session one. This is where we'll end. I'm not sure where this fits in, but I got a sphere shape with an opening. And it felt like basically it was getting the concept of a crash with some debris. I had an image of a flying saucer connected to a string with concepts of heat, transmission, flight, electronics, frequency. And there was an impression of a deceased creature entity covered over by a tarp. And this was a secret. And it was like dirty laundry that needed to be aired, or maybe it was in the process of being aired. There's a sense of concealment, secrecy, pain, and lights converging on a scene at night. The metallic object or deceased life may be linked to an event involving transportation, concealment, or recovery. And there's a bunch of larger life forms surrounding a smaller life form, which I believed was this deceased creature. That is my data. Thanks for the great target, Dimi. It's always exciting to get to work on a target like this that's in the news and we're all wondering about. So appreciate the opportunity to work on it.
Absolute excellent, excellent, excellent. I was dazzled when you sent your. So it was an ERV, Darby.
Well, the method I was using, I didn't show my actual. It was a paper session. Right now, as you guys may know, I've been training in CRV. Daz mentored me in CRV. That was an amazing experience, and I'm an explorer, so I'm always exploring. I did some probably over a year in HRVG, I think, and right now I'm in the middle of training in trans-dimensional mapping, and so I was playing around with that method specifically for this session. So there is some paper. There's paper along with it, but I just took that and put it into a form that does read sort of like an ERV in a way. Yeah.
Great session. Thank you, Darby. In my screen now, in line is Coral. Coral, are you ready or? Yeah? Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, I can do it. Let me just close a few things on my screen and share. Presentation mode. That's the tasking. So when I did the first session, I was I had, as Darby said, I had this fissure, and I felt it's an event. So my very first session, I was talking about an event and a species of some kind of creatures that didn't really feel human. I wrote straight away, this is like page 2, different species and intraspecies. And they're moving, they're traveling, they're swimming, and they're soaring. And then I have this thing here from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have no idea why. So long and thanks for all the fish. So there's the fish I did. I had this thing opening up. That kind of led me a little bit astray on the first session. But I was laboring with pole shift and the earthquakes and the earth cracking. So I had this earthquake, but I mean, it could well have been these things coming up from below. And the so long and thanks for all the fish, these strange creatures that feel like dolphins. Anyway, there's the event, which is like a splitting open. So I was quite surprised when Darby said fissure, right? Then I managed to get myself a little bit back on track by saying, move to what the tasker needs to know in a man-made. And there I've drawn like a mixture between a tic-tac and a drone. And it's large, metally, and it's opening into watery. So it's the energy around it is this very watery energy. And I come back to that a couple of times. But then I go into, it feels like an earthy man-made. So I'm not, a lot of the time you don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying things. So I don't know why I said earthy. Is it because there's some, it came from here, it came from us, from our sea, from our inner earth. Anyway, I was very attracted to this feeling of plasma, this plasmatic thing, and of course the energy. And I was so happy that I got a chance I actually managed to concentrate on the energy of how it's working as well. But there was a sound, so there's a singing. I don't know if anybody said about the drones, but I was hearing of like that planet sound. If anybody's heard the sounds of space, that's what I could hear. The heat signature and then luminous. I've got this plasma. So it looks as though I've got the shape of the drones, and then I've got orbs. So I've got both. And at some stage, I said there are 3 different man-mades. It's a spaceship, an ark, the ark, like the ark in the boat. So I'm still getting into the world stories. It's curving, V-shaped, flattish in texture. It's got crenellations. So I go into I've said that word crenellations a couple of times, but it's because it's underneath, it's the power source looking up. And in fact, if I go back to that other one, there I'm trying to draw these crenellations underneath. There's something going on. So I'm looking up at something, and I keep seeing this really big, heavy thing moving above me. It's moving ponderously, so this very heavy, slow, ponderous movement. And the underwater effect, now I don't know whether that's what it is around. So if you're looking up and you're looking at it, or if it's come up from the underwater, but it has like a vapor cloud-like thing around it, and it has laser green light. So I'm looking at what it's doing, why it's there, and it feels like it's looking for a location. And that I put that there because, it reminded me when we were all looking at the orbs going, what is it? What is it? And reading up on the internet and Twitter, they were saying it's looking for like rare minerals, or it's looking for something. It definitely, people were like feeling jittery because it didn't feel like completely positive. They were looking. So I'm trying to draw it. I'm getting tower-like. I keep seeing it above. And then on the left-hand side, you see the little circles. They're green, radiating, generating, feels inside, below, disc-like, alabaster. So the powerhouse, that's the electrical, that's how it works. And then the ultrasound scan, because it feels as though it's beaming down something. So it's actually looking, beaming, looking. So there's the strong electromagnetical energy, and it's going up and down. So it's not just it moving, but it's beaming down something to look. And I really had the feeling that they were looking into the earth as well, not just the surface. So the biological, so they're not the humans, they're the biological, the dolphin-like creatures involved. But it feels like this is, just touching on them a little bit to find out what's going on with them. They're feeling upset and rigid. So they're advanced, but they feel as though they're not quite controlling humanity enough. So they're not in the earthly scheme of things. They're somewhat removed from us. And then the event feels like it changes things, the geophysics and the energetics. So now that could be, one of the theories that was being, I'm just saying this, right? One of the theories that was being bandied about was that they were trying to warn humanity. And I think that Joe McMoneagle actually, he viewed the orbs too. And he said that they're trying to warn humanity of a disaster that's coming. And for me, the disaster could be the polar shift. So that makes sense here when I say it changes the geophysics and the energetics. Anyway, it feels as though there's an advanced civilization involved in a combination of events. I don't know. I really don't know what to say because, we don't have full knowledge of the thing. I'm just writing the words that come into me. I'm not thinking them. Anyway, so here I am now focusing in on the vehicle, and I'm trying to get details out of it. So one of the things is it's a manta ray, manta ray. That's the shape of it. It's large, it's V-shaped, it's flattish, it says the crenellations again. It's metally and glossy, so that glossy is what always attracts me in with this magnetic energy. It's like a pyramid, it's layered, it's moving. It's powered by a series of discs that feel crystalline alabaster. So the discs in the next one you'll see, but they're in the middle here. And it has a kind of ultrasound frequency energy. So I'm trying to find out what it is. I've been fascinated by how they are elemented, these things. So this time I knew it was something and to focus in on it. And I managed to get closer enough to look. And that's what I found. So it's moving, it's creating this underwater effect with the shimmer of energy around it. And it's got the cloud lacquer and it's looking for a location. But there are the more detailed drawings. So that middle bit is where the energy is. So there's from below, and that's the detail of the middle bit. And it's a series of like alabaster-like discs. It's not just metal, it's a mineral. And that's what they look like individually. It had my hair standing up on end. My heart was beating when I got in close, right, at the energy. I had this metal taste in my mouth. It was so, oh, teeth on edge. So then move to the man-made and detail its primary purpose. It reminds me of orbs. It feels large, plasmatic, moving and shimmery. And it feels as though it's controlling or even enforcing discipline. So it's a bit, you know, it's not completely not, love and light. The disc-like mechanism. And there I have here come up with it, looking for something, maybe it's rare minerals. And it do as well, because it's the same kind of energy as the Jew stuff. Okay, it's stealthy for sure. And it can also hide. So it can just black itself out if it needs to. So maybe we have them there all the time and we just haven't seen them. It feels a bit predatory and controlling, and I feel a bit uneasy. But, you know, I felt uneasy also from getting too close to that energy. It doesn't feel. So they can emit it right into the earth, and they can also densify matter in some way. And the densifying matter, I was saying, I don't know if anybody's done this on the beach when you build sand castles and you like drip down sand with water and they form little towers. So it feels like it's creating energy in that way, putting things together. You add the water to the sand, which is quartz crystal, and you manage to get this energy. Again, I'm not an engineer. So I don't know what that's trying to explain, but it's using a frequency or advanced technology to penetrate in. But this is interesting as well. It's an ancient advanced technology with humans acting as a bridge with it. So there's some kind of interface. And there I have, that's like straight from the session, but I've got cosmic egg and fungus, in other words, mycelium network of communication, electric amoeba and gold silk. So that's like very gold is a communicator, electrical communicator, electromagnetic. So gold silk is very, very, very fine fibers. So, and there it is densifying into matter using the minerals. So that again looks like the orb, right? Luminous cloud, sun energy and plasma, but for connecting. So it feels as though it comes from 2,000 years back. It surfaced in the 70s and it's operating currently, but it's not known about in the public. That is all I can tell you. I mean, it's crazy.
Excellent.
It's
I
crazy because
really
you
loved
don't.
it, and somehow your images of the mermaid were almost exactly like Dennis, you know, and the shape, the symmetry there, and you pick the green light and the thing that is really interesting, and the idea of getting into materialization things. I think it was a really good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Thank you for the great target. Yay.
thank you. Next in my line is Daz, if you want, please.
Okie dokie, yeah, sure. Great session so far, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly skip through my RV here. Yeah, I started off with lots of motion and waves, very beam-like, projected, high-energy beams, particles of light and energy. And there was me trying to draw one of these beams. So a ray of light of energy in motion, glowing white at its core, radiating outwards to yellow and blue on the edges. It had a warmth in the center, and it looked like dust particles in there. So it had particulates in there in the beam of the ray itself. And it felt like there were lots of waves and frequencies here, but a lot more than the human eye could see. And this ray itself, or this beam, felt like it was being projected downwards, and it was created and designed by whoever was using it. Then I had a life form. I felt like there was a life interaction central to this, and the life were changed, affected in this, and it was a situation. They felt like they were exposed to this beam, which gave me the AOL here of irradiated, which might actually be the case, but we don't know. The male was a male energy over 30s, and they were like looking in awe, and they were bathed in this energy and light. And that gave me the AOL straight away of Barber here. And for those who don't know, Jake Barber is a government whistleblower. And I could share some stuff actually, which is out from just like a couple of days ago. He put out a post a couple of days ago here on X talking about how in November and December he was actually interacting with the drones over the Pitcairn Arsenal. And he's got a team called Skywatchers, and they're essentially calling down these drones and interacting with them. So that would make sense in relation to that data. That was
Wow.
an AOL at the time. Then I had this structured object, which was cylindrical. Of course, with the data that was building, I instantly had the UAP kind of AOL. The visual here is like a cross section from the side, showing a curved edge, but a curved edge, but also had a weird sharp line to it, which I couldn't quite understand. Um, and then I tried drawing here. Maybe it's a bit more linear than my sketch because I couldn't quite understand how it had sharp edges and it had curved edges. It didn't quite make sense to me. So I tried to refocus at this point because I thought, okay, with the AOLs, I might be going off focus. Let's see where I go with this. I had a two-part ideogram here. One was an event, which was energetic using exotic energy, which was explosive energy, which moves from a single point outwards, almost starts from nothing, then boom, there's an energy, which gave the impression of a portal. Uh, this all feels very artificial, created, and manifested. And manifested was a key word here that I looked at in a second RV session because it's an irregular word for me. I've never had it in an RV session before. The two part here, which would be this part here, was energy movement like a trail or signature, and it felt like an invisible exhaust plume. Yeah, it felt like the space itself that would the object move through had changed in its substance. We couldn't see it as humans, but the molecular makeup of the space had changed. And this was at a quantum level, more of like something small, energetic, but depleted that was kind of left behind in an exhaust plume. It felt very darker, and it felt like used or drained particles that were left behind. So this whole thing was movement based, and it was I could actually feel the displacement of the air and the particles in waves that it left behind in this invisible kind of exhaust plume. And I wrote here maybe like an energy echo, and that these could be seen or tracked. I don't know how, but that's what the AOL kind of got from that. So I did another radiogram again with the two parts here. And the first part is something emerges or manifests from nothing. It appears as an energy event in a microsecond. So then I tried to work out what this was because it happened so fast, so I slowed it down using the movement command. And then there's an energy burst in the air, and it's a bit like a rip hole or fold in space that opens, and then an object came out of it, something like a UAP. And this involved the two-part here, which was movement, which was guided travel from a craft. It was a structured object, curved, linear, and aerodynamic, smooth, grey-white. It was egg-shaped from above, and it moved on a wobbly, organic movement. So it wasn't linear. It didn't like move from A to B instantaneously. It kind of wobbled on its axis in a weird way. Just some sensory stuff here, as you can see. So sounds, textures, temperatures, visuals, normal low-level stuff here. Lots of ozone and gaseous feelings around this, and lots of waves around the object as well, which were interesting. Yeah, so just general stage 2 stuff here, but it did feel very mystical and magical watching this. So moving to stage 3 here, here's the life form having his kind of information kind of level kind of interference thing with the object in this beam of light. So it was a life male. He was scared but relaxed, almost felt too relaxed. Maybe some kind of hypnosis or something, which would tie in with some of the stuff Darby was saying. He was bathed inside an energy bubble, or a beam, and it was laser-like but different than a laser. It was more subtle and less angry than a laser, the energy in a laser would be. And it affected his mind and body in an interaction. And then I asked for, a retask on this. So retask came on. I started again here, and I looked at the event from beginning to end. So before the event, there was open space and skies, blue, nothing there at all. Then the event itself started like this. It was almost like a singularity. So like there was this energy event that opens, and then this kind of object thing comes out. The energy event itself, it was an energetic event, dispersal field outwards from a single point, so it was like an explosion outwards, like a burst of energy, blue, white, and exotic, and it happened in a blink of an eye. Before that happens, there's nothing there, just space. And then the density change, there's like a compression of the density, and then there's this explosion. And here's me trying to draw it here in stages, so like nothing, very small, it's just starting, then it expands, and then it expands even further, the object comes out, the energy event disappears, and there's just the object that's left behind. That's what I'm talking about here with the object that manifests here. So I tried to look at the purpose as a movement command here, and they were information gathering, data and communication. Definitely felt drone-like. It didn't feel like there was actually any life on the object, although the object felt like it was life. It was curved, shell-like, smooth, white, grey, and aerodynamic. But it also shape-shifted as well. So as this unfolded, it actually felt here that it felt like the shape was dynamic, like it changed its form and body shape. It's like organic technology and energy, and it's self-propelled, organic and alive. It's data gathering and it's a remote object, but it reacts to intent, which is in situational. So it felt like it was like a transformer. It can and does change shape. It's a technology that reacts to local consciousness. Whoever's looking at it, it reacts and changes its shape to something that satisfies the intent of the person that's looking at it. So it's essentially, it scans locally for intent and human consciousness, I guess. Then it adapts to what it picks up as intent, and uses this as a form of camouflage. I asked what's it doing, gathering data and interactions. But I felt at the time that this was lured here. Now with all the latest stuff, and as I said with the tweet I showed you from the whistleblower and the Skywatcher team, it shows that they were in the area doing those exact kind of situations. So that might have been possible for this target. I asked who was luring. There's a group, small, up high. Felt like they were up high on a hill or something, maybe top of a building. Watching, there's a group of 6 or so men. Felt like they were very black clothes, just very black about them. Very militaristic, covert, operational. Again, it would fit the military group, Skywatcher and Jake Barber and his team, or another type group. This feels like a test, like the object event was baited here, observed. And this is me trying to draw it. So there's those guys there, the military type group up high. Down lower, there was other life. They were more distributed, though. I think they were more like general public. And then there's the object up high here. So group 1, this small group here, they actually manifested or baited the event, made it occur. And then there's the object itself. And it monitored and reacts to group 1 and the others. So as this manifests, it then scans, finds out who's down below, who the dominant kind of intent is, and then changes its shape and form to fit what they expect to be observing. Group 1 himself feels covert, men only. There's a team feel about them. They're up high. It's night, feels dark. They report back they have equipment, devices, electronics, and it's like film, infrared, heat signatures, energy, lots of others. They're recording all kinds of weird stuff. There's other life, but this feels spread, it's broad, feels below, scattered in an urban location. Everything feels visual, not organized from them. So these feel like general public, in a city itself. The object itself feels like it's having a freeway conversation, one with the people that are guiding it, like remote operators or drone operators, the military team, and then the broad sped people at the same time. So a freeway simultaneous communication, which then gave me the AOL here of, oh, this feels like it might be like the New Jersey drone event. So near the end here, so this is an event or events. It involves non-human esoteric technology. There's human interactions involved. There's a nighttime event or series of events. At least two groups of people. One is military intel types, which are organized. The other one is general public, and they're spread and they're below. There's an energy event in relation to a planned action, and it's like someone laid bait, and then they come to look at what the bait is. The object itself is a transforming form, organic, pliable object. It's remote operated technology, and it's here for data and recon and communications. Feels like a manufactured situation. The organic object can scan local intent, local consciousness, and it does this at a distant, and there's a distant limit to this. I tried to work out what this is, and in miles here, it felt like its scanning capabilities of picking up intent and then reaction to it was around about 25, 27 miles. So very local, very broad, like radio waves. There's lots of weird radio waves involved here. It scans, pinpoints human consciousness and intent, and then it adapts its shape and form to fit what they expect to see. So it feels like it shapeshifts towards who is the dominant consciousness in any given area, and it uses this as a form of camouflage. Then I tried to see. I just trained a different change of tack on this. I thought I'd try to, because it was a remote kind of probe type thing. I thought I'd try to follow it back to its point of origin here. So it had this weird ideogram here, and it felt like it was folded layers or dimensions with this kind of weird, kind of like onion shaped portal that it traveled through. So, and at the end of this was a huge metropolis. It was gigantic, full of life. It was very busy. It was tall. It wasn't wide like we do our cities and they're wide on a horizontal. This was a vertical city, a living world which was vertical. I tried to draw it, but it's not very good. I didn't do a very good job of it, to be honest. So it was a multi-layered, massive vertical city. I would say hundreds of miles high, multiple layers, but really thin shaped, not like we would spread out, as I said, on a horizontal. And it felt almost like a hive type environment. Organic shaped, it wasn't set formed. It was very kind of organic in the way these layers were all interacting. Some were longer than others, but still within a very short length window. The scale was just too big to describe. As I said, it was hundreds and hundreds of miles tall. And that's when I wrote this. Well, this took a weird turn, and then that's when I I stopped that, because that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It was really interesting. And the manifested part, which you already just told us about Jake Barber, I think it's absolutely amazing and fits really well on this. I didn't know about it. I'm glad that you said it earlier. So absolutely great target. Thank you. Susan, you're up next. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just trying to share my screen. Okay, so I definitely started with a drone type situation, and progressively through the sessions got pulled to more of the kind of exotic energy shell-like kind of object, which I've kind of left out because when I saw the feedback, I kind of thought, oh, that was me actually going off target, but it's there if you want to have a look at it later. But anyway, so starting, I get an even linear ongoing horizontal motion I get a slow, even curved, defined motion, like I feel like I'm singling out a specific area or a specific thing of interest. I get a man-made that's hard, rigid, grey, heavy, black, that feels metallic. And I get a soft, floaty kind of an undulation motion that's arising and a falling that feels gentle. I get a land surface that feels fine, flat, and light-coloured. I get a life, but I wasn't actually getting much from the life, and I'm kind of questioning if it's a kind of a singular type thing. I get a man-made that's hard, it's not large, it feels like an object, it's not dense and it's not heavy. I get a smaller man-made, it feels like an object, but something like I could hold in my hand. It felt metallic with a long, thin aspect, which felt pointy. So moving back to the initial motion, it's this horizontal linear motion, which is even and constant and feels resistanceless. It's ongoing, continuous, and uninterrupted. It's horizontal to the surface. There was an idea it might be sideways at times and isn't even energetics. The slow, even curved movement, now it feels like it's possibly a path of motion, or something's path of motion. Moving to the man-made, I get a heavy, rigid grey, black, it's largish. I get the idea that it's possibly vehicular, that it's actually a container because there's a hollow aspect, there's a dark internal space, there's areas of luminosity and radiance somewhere, possibly blue, and there's a clunkiness to it because I think it's the idea of like moving parts or interconnected parts that are in motion. It feels dense and it feels heavy, and bios interact with it. Going back to the motion, the undulating again, it's this rising and falling energy that's smooth and controlled. The land or the surface, it feels light-coloured and there's a fine texture. It feels natural and flat and horizontal. I moved back to the life, and now I wasn't getting life, and I wasn't quite sure because I was actually getting harmonics. Instead, it was like 2 lower tones followed by 2 higher tones that were repeated. So I didn't quite know what to do with that at that point. Moving back to the man-made, that felt box-like. There was a sense of something being a container or a box. There were flat surface areas, it was hollow. It wasn't large, it wasn't dense, and I did, again, the idea of it being blue or black. And then back to the smaller man-made, it's this shiny metallic tubular aspect, long, thin, pointed thing. And it's the idea of maybe an instrument, maybe it could extend, or that it's apparatus. There's bright illumination somewhere with light reflecting off it, and the sense of things fitting together that are assembled, the idea of a clean environment. And so weirdly, when I went to look for their target from an optimal time and position, I actually found myself with an internal space, and I had a sense of it being like to do with science or a research field. There are biologicals and coverings. There are biologicals looking after their own particular areas, and it's got this kind of, I didn't know whether it was like a clinical research scientific field, whether it was experimental or developmental, but it was orderly. It was kind of like a lab-like environment. Again, I'm wondering, was it to do with research or trials or study or observations? Trying to get to the target again. Then I felt like I was in a dimly lit environment, like an internal environment surrounded by equipment. It was low light. There were multiple man-made surrounding it. Kind of felt like lab equipment. Again, it's this idea of study, apparatus. I couldn't quite make it, with an investigation, but something about it felt very clandestine. And then I tried to move to a significant aspect, and then it was like the sound of something dropping into a metallic container, but it was something on a really small scale. And I maybe questioned whether it was investigation into something on a small scale. Post-session, the idea of maybe like something on a nano level or maybe nanotechnology occurred to me. So going to do another session, I get motion energy, which is fine energetics, this horizontal motion that's even linear, and it has a light, airy feel. And this time I'm picking up like a constant droning hum, this reverberation, it's a droning sound. Now I get a slightly different man-made, which is like white, there's a curve aspect, it's hollow and it's cylindrical, but I'm also seeing it in a different kind of environment with a bright sky. And there's a motion energy, which is soft light, and it's even and moving away into the distance. So that made me AOL on a different kind of UAP, I guess, which I broke down, which was this white cylindrical airborne object. And it was the idea of possible exotic technology and unusual UAP, and something that footage exists of. It was an observed and recorded UAP. So I got sent back to look at the smaller objects and man-made that I had upon in the first session. And this time it was like the instrument actually kind of felt like it was kind of needle-like. It was pointed with a hollow tubular part, and it felt like it was something you insert into something. And I was actually getting like the idea of like medical equipment, or the sensation that you're pushing something metallic into something, the consistency of flesh, actually, that it was connected to something else, something like fluid in a bag. And it felt like it was aiding the delivery of substance or fluid into another body. It was like this kind of transfusion or IV type thing. So it's like it's inserted and one substance passes into another. It's the movement of fluid. And then there's also the sense that there could be an extraction procedure involved as well. But it was definitely the sense of biological procedures or procedures done on biological materials or with biological materials. So I sent back to find the relationship between these man-mades, and now this man-made's getting kind of like a smooth grey, silver metallic feel. It's like a sense of a bench, and it's making me IOL in like kind of a bright hospital type setting. And I'm still getting these really polished surfaces and this kind of vibe of like a medical type facility. But there's still this really strong sensation of this sharp metallic thing being pushed into something like flesh. It was like the effortful insertion of it. It was really weird. And it just made me wonder if all these particular man-mades were involved in a biological procedure. There's also the sense of extraction again. I got sent back to break down the idea of frictionless. And that's when I went back to the energy of like the floating, the gliding, the unimpeded energetic movement with no resistance that felt effortless. Got sent back again to the instrument, which is what I was just talking about before, but now it actually feels kind of larger and it's involved in an extraction type process, which gave me the, this has been something like liposuction, but it was used on biological material. I got sent to look at the bio again, and it was interesting because when I first identified the bio, I wasn't sure. And then when I went back to it the first time, I actually was getting harmonics as opposed to alive. So this time going back into it, I got this weird kind of deep guttural chanting harmonics. So I went and broke that down, and it was like the sense of, it was a practice to induce an altered state of consciousness, the idea of a sonic environment and sonic reverberation, resonance, and resonating of the entire being. And I've got a sense too of summoning, communication, and connection, which is interesting. I tried to move to the actual bio if there was one, but I was getting this AOL more like this kind of like a road mail, this spiritual aspect. And for some reason, like I was seeing this kind of earthy, natural environment, this subterranean, this large underground space. But I did note like this felt very different from the setting from the previous one, like where I was now felt worlds apart from where I had been initially. At a later point, I tried to go back to the start point of the functioning. And an interesting aspect of it. And I got an internal environment that was light coloured and the sense of vibes around it, that something was actually being built. And then I AOL'd in like a tic-tac type thing. And then it was the sense of something being raised up and lifted by something suspended and moved manually and lifted into position. It was there bios, multiple involved in readying the man-made, something being hoisted and moved. And it felt like it took place within a large empty-ish internal space within a structure. There are biologicals, males working on it, preparing it, and I got the sense of a hangar type space within a dry open environment and the sense of a facility. Still trying to go back to the start point of functioning. I get this large internal space. Now I've got a low hum, biological males. I'm kind of AOLing on the idea of barracks and uniforms, but this time there's also a white structure that's curved. And then I did my little crazy AOL drawings. And then what I did in my last session, what I haven't included because I thought it was completely off target, it's all the cylindrical, curved, white shell-like object, that's exotic technology. It phases in and out, it feels alive. But I mean, I can show it to you. I'd have to pull it up though, but I completely went off in that direction and I thought I'd just gone completely off target. So that's it.
Thank you, Susan. Excellent perceptions also. You also got at some point you got working in, maybe they are sampling something from down there. This was Coral's idea also. Research was, we don't have Dennis here to support his session, but he has absolutely most of what you've already said here from each of you, like the sounds of it, the man-made, the idea of doing something, researching something, or taking something and researching something. So I think it was, I don't know about the time. I have more questions than before, to be honest. And that's not
when I did the, oh, sorry. When I got
okay.
the white shell like kind of UAP, I sensed was that more of a surveillance thing and to do with transport. And it actually, when I felt into it, it actually felt nice. So it didn't actually feel nefarious at all.
Wow,
But
great one.
that.
So yes, it's okay. It's okay. I don't have like a big speech or something. I just wanted to say that I was amazed by each of you, like when you're sending back your data. And I didn't, at some point, I didn't know what to pick because there are so large bulks of data that I don't know what to pick. They are on target, but there are too many ideas, too many descriptions. And I didn't know how to retask you at some point, not you personal, like many of you here. And I'm impressed. I still don't know what it is. But now no one of you came with the idea of being foreigner or being foreigner like foreigner from China, from Russia, or from another country. No, neither of you came with this, or with the humans behind all this technology or all this movement, all these energies. Each of you were coming, maybe they were humans involved in this one way or another, and now we know why. Thanks to that he pointed out. And I think that probably militaristic personnel are not standing and just looking at this. There are some interaction between them and this whatever man-made it is in a way or another. So we don't know what they are doing underground, and they are not telling people about it, of course. The sounding thing, the humming thing, also the vibrations, the water picked by Darby and also by Coral and Dennis. And I think somehow every data pushed together show that we have an energy that is not from here. This is my opinion. Somehow I am I'm leaning toward what Daz said about something is manifesting and they're coming, they're rushing to the point of manifesting with or without, I don't know, consciousness, dog whistle, or whatever could be. I don't know. It's just my idea of it. So that's it, and thank you very much. I'm sorry that Dennis was not here, but he's gonna be at some point. He's gonna make his presentation, and we'll stick to that. I put in the chat my presentation from earlier, so you can take it and maybe study it or whatever. And that's it.
Yeah, that was
Mainly,
really
it was
interesting.
lovely. Trust me, for me, it was like a rush, like a thrill, waiting for your session.
No,
Great
Really.
target. And it's really interesting to see your guys' work as well, because I purposely don't look at the sessions until you guys go through them. So it's my first time seeing all the data.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
I haven't seen them either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to read it. I like to see you guys go through it and feel the data more than I see it.
That's
I like how
completely
you.
different. Sorry, David, go ahead.
I was just going to say I liked one of your movement commands, Daz, when you slowed down it appearing through that aperture. I never thought using a movement command where you're slowing down the data to take a closer look. That was pretty cool.
First time I've ever used it as well. I thought about it on the
Oh
spot.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely when I'll keep in mind, to slow down these fast events in future. Yeah.
Yeah,
But great
me
data,
too.
guys. Very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what people think when we put this out. Because it's still, it's still well. I think the drone thing's still an ongoing situation. It's just not making local news. And it's a bit as we've discussed. It's a bigger situation with these groups out there now, manifesting or communicating or whatever you want to call it with these.
Can you
Types.
imagine how many people are doing this?
It's
every
probably
night.
it must be thousands around the world now because literally every time I go to Twitter or X, I see people talking about it. And in fact, they were tonight. I saw that someone has reconstituted the and made up the actual audible tone that he thinks is what they're using for what they call it as their dog whistle.
Jesus.
So yeah, there are thousands of people looking into this and trying this now. So it's definitely an interesting time.
It is. And Pentagon is still baffled. It has
Yes.
no answer at all.
Yeah. It's crazy situation. But great
Yeah,
target, guys. Well done.
I even wrote that on my session, interesting time to be alive.
Mm.
it
It
is.
definitely is.
It
Yeah.
is. It is.
Yeah, interesting the
So,
sound as well. That
Mm.
was and the entities, and I had on one of mine mantid as well, and I also had esoteric energy. So
Yeah.
we all got little bits that were overlaying.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Absolutely
just
great
just
stuff.
just a final question. Do you think, well, what each of you think it's negative or is positive?
Ooh.
I experienced it as positive.
Okay.
Mm. Don't know.
I don't know.
Well, to me, it definitely feels as though there's surveillance going on.
Mm.
That's actually surveillance. They're looking for something.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't enter into contact, and I had a long thing about how they were not happy about what we were doing. So it's like, for goodness sakes, these humans, really. And they felt quite rigid. It's like, but I mean, what you said in your presentation, Dimi, about them appearing at nuclear plants and stuff.
Mm.
So it was like, yeah, I mean, anybody surveying and seeing these things out there would be worried. I mean, we're all worried too. So
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we should be, but what it baffles me is how come they appear only on US basis, all around the world, but on US basis, over US basis.
was
It's a
that because they
coincidence.
were doing?
Maybe we don't have information from others. I don't know.
Yeah. Don't know.
Maybe the Americans are the most
To answer your
organized.
question though, Dimi, I don't think any of us picked up any violence. So
No,
that says something in itself, I guess.
That's a very good
but
thing then.
Because
apart from Susan with the injections,
yeah, with
ugh.
the injection.
Yeah,
More like
I had the
sampling.
sampling, but also I have to say there was maybe looking at the potential for nefarious use.
Mm.
But it wasn't, but because the sense, the initial drone type thing I was getting, it felt like a container, and the possibility of being used as a container. And I get all this nano stuff, and I get biological stuff, and I was thinking, oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't look great. But then the Tic Tac stuff, that stuff felt positive, and it didn't feel like any of that was going on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Of course, as we know from our previous excursions and stuff, we know that the abduction event happens as well. So is that
Yeah,
all a
it could
part
be
of
that
this?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be, yeah.
It's a very convoluted puzzle, isn't it, that we're looking at?
Mm.
And I'm
Mm.
sure that
We
people
should do
who
a
know.
follow-up.
Mm,
I'm sure there'll be plenty of chances with, all the latest sightings and stuff that's going on. Yeah. And it was good to me as well to do this kind of 3-4 months after the main event as well. Because, I did see people like Birdie and a few others do some RV sessions as it was happening. And I thought, oh, that's a bit, it's a bit hard to do an RV session blind as an event's happening.
Well, yes, but it has a really interesting session. So it's like 3 hours of watching, like almost 3 hours of watching. I've watched her. Let me tell you first, but I didn't want to look even for birdie session. I was tasking and looking for your session, and I was so curious about birdie, and I didn't look.
Mm.
I waited for your session, and when everything put all the session down and sent it to me, I just then looked to Birdie session, and it's
Mm.
absolutely amazing.
Mm.
In 3 hours is really long, but it picked up most of the thing from you guys,
Yeah.
and a little goes beyond, like you, when you're trying to go beyond all this. But 3 hours is 3 hours anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you picked something different from Birdie, and it's so interesting because every one of you came with different aspect of the same issue, the same
Yeah.
man-made or the same event in a way.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
absolutely amazing sessions. I'm still dazzled by them. Thank you very much.
No, thank you all for working the target.
Yep. Thanks,
I look
Dimi.
forward
Thanks,
to
everybody.
the next one. Whoever we'll have to see who's on the road. So I don't know who it is.
I think it was. I think Susan was never Susan on the board.
Okay,
So
I'll have a look
maybe.
later. Yeah. Excellent, guys. Thanks for this. And I'll look forward to, yeah, we'll all look forward to seeing Dennis's as well. Well added to the video here as well.
Absolutely amazing,
Yeah,
Dennis.
we'll get
Yes.
him to record a Zoom and add it to the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Nappy II here, and I'm going to go through my data that I collected back in March on the New Jersey drone with Hellfire that was tasked by Dimi. Really fascinating session. This one hits close to home for me. Literally, I live in Pennsylvania, and I was seeing these drones over my home. I live across the street from a very large lake, and I actually had a drone. It was about the size of an SUV, hovering, and it went down. I don't know if it went into the water, but it was definitely hovering above the water. It's the lake. I can see it from my home. It's not even a mile, maybe half a mile across from exactly where my home is. So, and I was seeing them all over the skies. I had some pretty neat interactions with them. So as I'm processing this target after because obviously we were blind to the target. Um, I had a lot of interactions. I had a lot of stress and anxiety and excitement over this. I did a podcast on it, and I actually did a future predictions remote viewing session back in December for myself personally. I ended up getting some drone stuff, and so I really thought a lot about this. So now seeing this target and actually working it, being blind to it, and then getting the target reveal has been very exciting for me. I definitely sketched the drone. And I did 5 sessions on this one. So I definitely had target contact. When I look at the images that Dimi sent, I think they look very similar with the images, from the tasking document. Very similar to what I sketched. I'm very proud. I don't always sketch it at things accurately, so I feel pretty good about my sketch on this one. I had a life form. At times, it seemed like a life form was inside the drone itself. The drone looked like a mini version of the space shuttle. If you can imagine what the space shuttle looks like, it was black underneath and white on top, and there was a life form that was inside it. And at the very beginning, I had a woman in a spacesuit, and she witnessed something. This was a very big theme is this person witnessed something. And I had 2 elements to this. I had above the surface, like space and just in the air, but a lot of my data kept drawing me underwater. And the first time I had contact with the female life form in my session, immediately getting, and I don't know if I wrote this down, but I was really struggling with the AOL of the movie The Abyss, if you've ever seen The Abyss. I just had that feel throughout this entire thing, more so of like who this woman was and how she, in that movie, she was a very strong woman. She was a very intelligent woman, very hands-on, very technical, scientist, and an explorer. And I had all those qualities in this woman, but I was wrestling with this AOL of the movie The Abyss as I'm going through this session, trying to make my way through it and just record the data. So I want to go through my highlights of my 5 sessions here. I did notice, I did get a chance to glance at the other viewers' work, and I did see there was some other elements of water. So it does sound like these drones are going underwater. And what's interesting is I think my first session, as you'll see, I did have something like a syringe and it coming out of a syringe and having to navigate something. And I did see Susan's session had that too. So I think that's significant because towards the end, I came back to something about this drone navigating through these, what felt to me like underwater caverns or some kind of cave system. And in the end, there was some kind of discovery. And the overall theme and purpose I had in my session was that this drone is searching for something. What? I'm not sure, but and I have some things that I think it saw that I can share in my sessions. But overall, I think that was the purpose of this. It's searching for something. And when you look at it, Dimi's presentation was amazing. She had that timeline of events and everything that came out there. It was a really thorough presentation about the history behind it. One of the rumors that came out was that they were possibly searching for nuclear material. I didn't see that in my data, so I don't know what it was searching for, but it was a fascinating session. Really neat to see. Really just really neat to see everything that came through with it. All right, here's my session here. Let's get started. All right, session one. Actually, I started this back in February. I think it ran through March. So February 9th when I started this first session here. Right away, I had something scientific is a feeling that I had here. A dark object in a dark space. The object has an opacity that creates an outline. So just low level data here. And right away, deep space or deep sea. It was really tough to tell the difference because I kept seeing like this blackness and then I'd see like particles floating by. Things feel tied together, connected, indistinguishable. Life plus object plus movement. So I just slow myself down. And then right away, I had this like nose cone, is what it felt. I even labeled it nose cone as an AOL. As I'm looking at this, and then I moved on, and there was something technical here that was like this. This just looked like a component of something. I had life inside this, and then again, floating or underwater, because in space, if you're weightless, you're going to be floating. And then I had this underwater thing too. But this nose cone was designed to, it felt like make contact with the surface, as if this craft was going between a tight space and it was expected that it was going to crash into it. It was like a bumper, and it would help guide the craft through these very tight enclosures or spaces that it was exploring. It was really, really a neat concept. This here just explaining this component. Movement inside, like flowing air, rushing water. And I think I explore that later in another session. Now here, it's this like cavernous area, and this object again is hitting the side walls as it navigates because it was guided from and there's this guidance of an intelligent force behind it. Is it pushed or is it piloted? And that's what I was asking. Took a break, and then I had this life form here suspended. And this is where I'm getting space, but it also could be a suit, like a deep sea diving suit here with this cord. They were contained, but they were bouncing around. This life was floating around or bouncing around in whatever structure they were within, whatever craft they were in. They were tethered, possibly wearing a helmet. Floating and spinning. Is it another life? Intelligence, consciousness? They became aware of each other or floating. So they saw something. Life has an expression that can be interpreted as concern or worry, and I explore that later. Life may just be surprised. So ultimately, I think what my data points to is they found or encountered something unexpected. So here more, I think this piece here that I'm drawing in the back of the suit was just a more detailed sketch of this here. I don't know why I was drawn to that, but it was something about the way that rotates. It allows the person wearing this suit to move more freely, not to prevent these wiring from getting kinked up and twisted and knotted. It's just describing the suit and different components of it. I don't need to go into too much detail about that. I got this Stranger Things or interdimensional travel piece here. So I broke off there and just no sketch of the face. Here I'm starting to see it was a woman. A sense of surprise, a little fear, curiosity, female life. She saw something as if she's peering through a window. So again, she's in this craft. Something floated past her view, and she was peering, trying to see it from within her structure, but can't get the right angle. So she's floating around, trying to get to another vantage point of it. Her breathing was elevated, her heart rate was up, but she was talking to someone. I see it. I saw something. Where did it go? It's over here. What she saw was long and spindly. And now this, I ended up on an AOL. I thought she saw maybe the Loch Ness Monster or Quetzalcoatl, plumed serpent, or a Chinese dragon. But this life was just effortlessly floating and flying in all directions and twists and turns. It was very graceful. I think that was just noise, honestly, because I didn't see that again as I pursued this target. But who knows? Maybe she saw something like that wherever she was. All right, second session here. Looking at some low level stuff. Again, window and glass. Here now I'm starting to get images of this craft here. I felt that the location was important. It was destination specific. Obviously, New Jersey drones, moving forward, and it was rotating as it was moving. And then I was seeing this, and I said, is it stardust? Is it a trail of stardust? Or is it murky, dark, silty, or like dust at the bottom of the lake? And I was wrestling with space versus water. My honest opinion is I think it's both. I think it goes underwater, and obviously we see the pictures of it being up in the air. So I think these things do both, which would make a lot of sense given what's going on with them where we can't find their origin. Here's another component of it. There were compartments. These knobs twist open to look at a compartment. It felt hot and steamy in this location. The female life opened the compartment and there was steam and she was working to solve a problem. And there was a bunch of wires and technical things inside that compartment there. I'm not sure what she was looking at there. Something like a tin can here, research, an exploratory vessel. This is the purpose of it here. It was searching for something, curious sensing, using sensory data and technical equipment and function. Here's another sketch of it. I had the color orange at first, and then it had this light coming out, this light here. The light's scanning for something. It's mapping the terrain. The ground was soft, squishy, mushy, very deep sediment, at least 2 feet deep. A lost treasure or mystery, which I think I come back to in my last session here. Moving slowly, otherwise it will kick up dust. Feels very cold, so I'm definitely underwater here. Filtering, the AOL, like the Titanic and the movie where you see them underground, under the water looking for the ship. It felt quiet and routine, like just a routine operation until the anomalous or unexpected event. But I sense a female life working quietly. But again, it was routine and mundane until it wasn't. I'm in an AOL of a woman in a submarine. This is where I started wrestling with the movie The Abyss. All right, looking at the optimal position in time and space, where I can clearly see and observe the structure in its entirety. And this is where the abyss kicked in, because I saw this craft and it was hanging or suspended in some kind of hanger. And the structure is being inspected from underneath. So it was hanging and this woman was underneath it, running her hand on the underside of it, like, I'm going to pilot this. And she knew the craft and she was looking at it. So it was just hanging here. And here I am looking at it from the bottom here. It's this black craft. You can see kind of the grooves on the bottom. And I have it labeled here. Obviously, the smaller end is the front. And we're looking at the bottom. It's just we're standing directly underneath it looking up. And that's what we're seeing here. It was very smooth. It was angled and beveled. It was beautiful. I was wondering if it was like some kind of hard plastic. It was buoyant. I don't know if I spelled that right. Did it float? It felt like it floated and it was propelled or it moved. The angles and curve on here are beautiful. It was very cool and streamlined and very aerodynamic. Looking at the back view of it, this was pretty cool. It had these two, I don't want to call them jets or exhausts. I don't know what that is. Looking at it, just very streamlined and very aerodynamic as I looked at that. Now looking at the front view, almost like a little spaceship there. I had life forms in it. All right, I stopped there and moved on to my third session here. I had some movements from Dimi. And she wanted me to describe where was I? Looking at the intelligence behind the man-made structure and the female life. And I ended up in a workshop. So I moved to and describe the primary forces and processes responsible for the man-made function. So she wanted me to basically look at, who are the forces behind this? And I went back to, I think, where this thing was being built. I heard machine sounds. There were high-pitched mechanical clicking, banging, mechanical robots and life forms, steam, warmth, metallic, the colors grays, browns, and rust, like a workshop or a workforce. More mechanical stuff that I was looking at, two arms grabbing each other, and then the life form completes a task and walks away to another station. So they were craftsmen, they were experts, they were builders, and they were welders. In my mind, I wanted to see aliens. I wanted to see creatures, but as I'm going through the session, I really didn't get that. I mean, they honestly, they could be, but I just had a life wearing like this long leather apron, covered the whole body, just a worker, a labor class. He was bipedal and he walked with a waddle or a limp. Was it a human? Was it an alien? I don't know. But the work and labor feels routine and mechanical, like different stations building components. One might see at a car manufacturing plant. Workers are at stations. Each station has a machine that assists the worker in constructing each component. When the part is complete, the worker moves it to another station. So it's an assembly line, really, what I was seeing. Describe the force behind the creation of the technical equipment. I had this oligarchy or ruling class or a technocracy. There was a life seated looking at a monitor using a mouse and a device. Okay, so this is the brains behind it. There were schematics, what was that? Plates and principles. I don't know what that means. Cones and rods, dynamic drawings. I want to describe something foreign in ET, but these data feel human or humanoid. Describe the primary purpose or function or exploratory vessel of the exploratory vessel from session 2, page 4. Again, searching, research, exploration, a cavernous area, sub or a submarine. Looking at a structure and life and energetics. The life in a structure exploring a body of water was subsurface, slow-moving, mechanical, methodical. It was exoplanetary and exploratory. Interaction with life and something else. Life, non-life, technology, I wasn't sure. Something technocratic. And there was an external voice that is communicating with life in the structure. So really what I was seeing is like there's a woman in the craft and then somebody who was, I guess, back at a monitoring station that was talking to her through radio or some other kind of communication system. The structure had sensors or smart sensors that allow for some autonomous functioning tied to both safety, life support, and surveillance. Again, the Abyss movie. What was the objective? Search, find, monitor the sea floor. Maybe collecting samples, research, and study. I had this collection thing of like worms and mollusks here. They were collecting something down there. I wanted to further elaborate, define, and clarify space versus water, deep sea versus deep space. Where the heck am I? Is this a vehicle that can go in space and deep sea? I was asking. Session 2 visuals remind me of a mini space shuttle about the size of a large SUV, but wider and taller. So that's interesting because that's what they're saying the size of the drones were. I was not thinking New Jersey drone. I was very surprised when I got this feedback on the target. It makes sense now, but they're saying they were about the size of an SUV for these drones, so that would fit. This current session, I'm exploring underwater. It was dark, floating, a beam of light coming from the craft. There were fine particulars floating. It was so dark and cold, but something big swims past quietly or quickly. This is unexpected, and the female life scrambles to track and find it because life like that shouldn't be here. And then I wondered, am I looking at the Loch Ness Monster? In session 1, life felt like she was floating within the structure in a protective suit, which gave an AOL of space, but a submersible filled with water would have the same effect. All right, trying to describe a little bit more about this location. And again, abyss, challenging, this connection here. I had the word malfeasance. And now here I had this like a little bit of high-rise areas. This is a beach here, the water, and then this craft is coming out of the water. This drone is being launched from the water. So I have both land and water, air and water interfaces here. Hardened structure rising up out of the water, land-sea interface near beaches and mountains or high ground. All right, guided from an intelligent force. I wanted to get more information on that. It felt like a male voice, a supervisor, a leader. He was kind and caring and very experienced, and he cared deeply for the life in the structure. They were talking through radio. The female life form, I wanted to describe her a little bit more. Mid-30s, Caucasian, Greek, Italian, English speaking, 5'8" to 5'9", very intelligent and educated. She was strong and confident, but she hides behind that. There's also an aspect of hidden vulnerability as it relates to her personal life, but work is her primary focus, and she hides behind that. She's very driven, very determined. Dark hair, longer and it's curly or wavy, dressed in a uniform or jumpsuit. She's wearing coveralls. She's a scientist or researcher, but also has technical knowledge. She can repair the craft and does, and she does routine maintenance. This life pilots the craft, but it's not her main purpose. This vehicle is a tool she uses to accomplish her mission. She was conducting research until the anomalous sighting, then everything changed. She's not afraid to defy authority because she has a strong desire to prove what she saw. She was very excited and scared, but pushes to keep going because in that moment she needs to know, even though her actions are dangerous or reckless or insubordinate. So she's like, I saw this. I don't care what you say. I need to figure this out because she knows it's important. All right, looking at technocratic. Interesting. That word was in the news today, and I declared that in case that's where I was getting it from. It was technological, technologically connected, forceful, resourceful, symbolic, weaponized, dealing with aerospace. Then looking at this oligarchy here, those in charge, the hidden hand, an amalgamation of functions and processes, and everything's connected. A finely tuned machine of perfectly synchronistically timed interactions. Total control. All right, trying to go through this quickly here. Looking more energetics. Pressure waves in and out, bubbly sounds, squishy sounds, moving in waves, something that was lighthearted, crescendo, rhythmic, synaptic, judgment, organism, organization, mitochondrial. Again, exploring this energy. Teal or electric blue color embedded in black and gray. There was movement that was slow moving, quiet. There was momentum floating. I heard cheers and excitement. Okay, so for this, let me go back for a second. My movement was very small. I copied it very small here. Go to the starting point of your man-made and detail all around and describe anything that benefits the target. So I went to basically when this man-made was built and launched is what I felt that I was looking at here. That's where I was, I think, on the timeline. And this was pretty cool. This was a pretty cool experience to look at that. So here it is. So it was this sense of like we did it and they were excited. There was this big accomplishment. It serves a purpose. And they knew that this is going to be a tool that's going to be used to solve a problem. They created this craft specifically to solve a problem. And here it is flying over the life forms down here and they're all cheering. They were very excited about it. So this vehicle has a specific purpose and was created to do something specific. What I think it was created to do was to access locations that previously were inaccessible. There was a hum or hiss, a sound, an airflow, but it was not combustion driven. It was rising up, floating, and spinning. It was humming. It works. What does it do? A transport vehicle, energy, technology, exploratory, dimensional, a new means of travel. It opens up new possibilities for exploration. What are they doing there? Exploring, discovering, they're canvassing, searching, scouring, looking for, explore, an active exploration. It was active, an activity beyond passive searching, a movement of people to a location not previously known or accessible. As a result, they find something unexpected, which is pretty cool. Something was being excavated. There was digging or moving substrate below, soft and gritty, and he encountered something hard. Rocks, minerals, treasure, a treasure trove of information. What was it? And I saw this three-dimensional model. It was computerized. It was like all pixelated like this. Spikes and spirals, and the openings were open spaces where things could navigate between it. This was like their map here. There were caverns or passageways seen from above, almost like a maze. And it was like Swiss cheese, this maze. Is this a natural formation? It was hard to tell because it felt very old. This could have been man-made, but I wasn't sure, and I felt this was underwater. A mineral deposit, but seems to have an intelligent design. Crusty, brittle aspects, but also a solid stone feel. Parts may be unstable, which means they could fall over. It was a labyrinth, and it reminded me of maybe the Mayan entrance to Xibalba, which was their gate to the underworld. The center part felt more open. The ground was soft, squishy, and concave, as everything was just like a drain going down. I had 20 to 30 feet wide here. The center is deeper than the sides, possibly sloped at the same consistent angle, and just filled in with sediment over time. But where does it lead, I wondered. I went back to my ideogram data here, looking at these energetics, craft, structure, object, and motion, uh, discrete or discretionary, which these drones have been, move silently beneath a larger, harder object or structure. And again, back to that first session, scraping or bumping on it. It was exploratory. And then going on to my last session, this got a little woo here, as if we're not woo enough, towards the end with what I think they found. So there was stuff happening around this life. They were nervous about it. I was looking at the life a little bit more closely. My sketch is, awful, but she was wearing some kind of blue uniform with an emblem here at a control panel. Feminine, reserved, calm, wise, sentient. Is she a wife? Is she married? There was some kind of pressure, physical pressure, but also pressure derived from the situation, like situational pressure. Acceptance. Is this a test? Is she being observed, watched, or monitored? A calm female life who's balancing and managing a lot of things. Aspects feel technical. She's silent, observing, analyzing, processing what is happening. What do I do next? A problem to solve, but she's well trained and experienced to handle it. A calm confidence in the moment. So I wanted to move to a point where I can gain more insights about this life that is relevant to the tasking. So I went through in time water, crying, stress relief, an emotional being. She's a life giver, a life-giving, a giver of life. She does research and science, exploring. What is her benefit as it relates to the structure? Opportunity and control. And this is her just handling the controls here. And it grants her access to a quote outside world, a space difficult to access and operate without this tool. What are the long-term consequences and advantages of this function of the structure? Again, movement, and she can navigate and traverse something, has access to sites unknown. She was able to acquire and accumulate things. There's an entrepreneurial aspect of this. Success, a positive impact, something hard or hardened. All right, show me a point in time that clearly demonstrates the impact. And I had this treasure, glowing jewels, and illuminated. She's finding this treasure here. But I don't know that it was a treasure chest full of jewels. This might have been a metaphor. It was definitely some kind of discovery and glowing on the face. Her heart was racing. It was excitement and curiosity. But I think that what was more important is information, knowledge, and I had like scrolls, papers, but more so data. They found an object or an object found that was lost or stolen. It was like the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it's not. The discovery or recovery has or will have an impact similar to the findings of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the word Coptic here. I want to describe it as brittle and fragile, but when I unroll it, it felt like a thin sheet of metal, silver in color, with raised metallic markings like braille, some kind of myth. At the point, and this is the impression I got is what it said, at the point of origin, with the sun and the stars, we came to you. This information is illuminating and validating. It's paradigm shifting and affirming and life changing. I felt my third eye being stimulated also to the crown. Here's some of the characters that I saw on that here. As I ran my fingers across the top line, that's what it felt like. It was universal knowledge, truth, and information. And here's what's really cool about it. The sheet is metal for a reason. The information can transfer to the recipient as they read and hold it with both hands. It's a multisensory experience designed to electromagnetically transfer information and experience through the nervous system. Something about origins. Okay. So that's what I had. It was a fascinating session. I am curious about the corroboration points. Great target. I really enjoyed it. It's close to home. To the woman, if you exist, who's been flying in my area, I would love some direct feedback at some point, if that's ever possible. I think the team would greatly benefit and appreciate if you can ever talk about this, letting us know just how close we were on this. So thanks so much, everybody.